One. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pigskin preview here. You have Mr. Mark Hirsch, Mr. Baltimore Blaine, Mr. Chris Rose, and myself, Mr. Shane McGowan. We are on tonight talking about the upcoming playoff games, which are going to be, I think, very exciting in this first half of these playoffs. I think we're going to see some possible upsets, maybe. We're going to break it down and see exactly what's going to be going on and the odds and everything like that. How's everybody tonight doing, Mr. Hirsch?
Well, I'm doing fine, Shane, and I'm looking forward to the weekend as well as anyone else. Uh, I think there might be some upsets, especially on the AFC side, and I'm ready to break it down. Baltimore Blaine, what about you? You looking at the AFC?
Yeah, I'm looking at the AFC. I see one that I particularly am going to call an upset on. Um, but yeah, it looks. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see some of these teams in. Some that haven't been there that we didn't look like they were going to get there. Some that are familiar, but we'll see how it all pans out. Who moves on to the next level?
Well, and that's it exactly. I mean, after this round, we're going to get the four teams that had the bye. And, the first games, they're all starting. We got two games starting on Saturday. The first game we're going to be breaking down is going to be Tennessee at Kansas City. And right now, Kansas City is favored by 8.5 points going into Kansas City. You know what? I mean, Tennessee, in many ways, lucked out to get where they are like that. They are going into Kansas City. But I do think personally myself that this Kansas City is going to take this one at home against Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is equipped to be a playoff team just yet. I think there's got too many injuries. DeMarco Murray is still not playing out there. The quarterback situation is really still iffy on making the crisp passes that he needs to make to be that type of quarterback during this playoff rush. So I don't think it's anybody's going to be going against and saying, yeah, I think Tennessee's got this one. I think Kansas City's going to take it. But I just don't know. I think 8.5. I'm thinking possibly 10 points on this one for myself. I don't know about you there, Mr. Hirsch.
Well, I'm interested to see if Kansas City could break the curse. I think they've lost five straight playoff games at Arrowhead, and this certainly looks like an opportunity for them to win one. I think everyone would agree that looking at all the factors here, that the Chiefs should definitely win this game. And of course, at any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen. I guess it depends on the quarterback situation there in Tennessee and whether he can up his game and find some targets to hit. But I'm expecting the Chiefs to win. Although it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills the Titans somehow upset them. Nothing would surprise me in the AFC this year, except the Steelers or the Patriots lost in their first round. So I'll go along with the Chiefs. I don't know about 10. I'm going to say by at least a touchdown. Blaine?
I think the Chiefs. I'm going to pull for them to pull out of that said streak that you just mentioned. Five straight home games in the playoffs, and they have lost all five. Going back to, I believe it's 1994, maybe. Um, I don't like the way that the Titans have been playing down the stretch. They barely got in by beating out Jacksonville on a very, very tight game and low score, and then for most of the game, and then what I do like about these two teams, the quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks. They're elusive. That they can get out of trouble in the pocket. They can step up. They can elude tacklers and even run for first downs if they need to. That's going to be the key for me with the Chiefs. Is how good is this defense now? They have been suspect for the last second half of the season. We've had a reemergence of Lamar Hunt and Kamar Hunt and Tyreek Hill on offense. And I think that's what's going to give the Chiefs an edge. And with Alex Smith doing his normal thing, the combination of those guys, those receivers and the running back, I think the offense is going to be able to pull this out. It's going to be probably, I'm going to say, a 13-point game.
Yeah, I think that we talked a lot about that particular division and some of the weaker divisions in the NFL. And I think that is a specific and obvious example of a team that really shouldn't be in there because they get to play a team like Indianapolis twice. The Texans, after their quarterback in that little stretch where they had the best young quarterback in the league, and then in that last game against Jacksonville, the one that got them into the playoffs, Jacksonville had nothing to play for because they were stuck at number 3, even though they did play a lot of starters. There's a difference between really going at it and playing a few starters. Vegas agrees. I think this one is kind of, I do acknowledge the problem that the Chiefs have had, in playoffs, and then I know that Mr. Hirsch has brought up the Andy Reid thing multiple times. But I think that in Arrowhead, with the talent they have against this particular team, I think it's kind of and the fact that they rested most all of their starters in Week 17, I think the Chiefs go and just walk straight through this one.
I was biting my tongue on that Andy Reid thing this time. I thought I'd give it a rest.
Well, I got your back, sir. I got your back. I know that's something that you always bring up, so I did it for you. Now, on the other side of the AFC, we have. Well, I'll let you start, Mr. McGowan. Why don't you lead us into this next game? Because I know we've talked about these teams a lot, so people kind of know what I think. But I'll let you go since the first one was pretty easy. So why don't you get into that second AFC game for us real quick?
Well, going into Buffalo and Jacksonville. So we got Jacksonville by 8.5, according to Vegas right now. This is what I think is going to be a real interesting game that could possibly be an upset maybe as well. Jacksonville, yes, they have that defense that is very, very talented. They're strong. There's no question about it. The only thing is, does Jacksonville have an offense other than the Fournette, the running back? Can Bortles be this guy that's going to get them over the hump and into the second round of playoffs? I don't know if he can. That's my dilemma that I'm having in this game of picking this game. I really am. Buffalo, I mean, they beat the drought. They're flying high now. They got the momentum of that excitement in them too. I'm going to actually go and I'm going to take Buffalo on this one. They're going into Jacksonville, so I mean, really, you might get some weather conditions depending on what's happening out there on the coast, but I'm going to take Buffalo on this one, and I'm going to take them by only a field goal myself. I think that Buffalo might be able to just sneak this one by them. I know that they still don't have their own running back and things like that, but I just don't think Jacksonville is going to handle the pressure for some reason. I don't know. That's the way I'm looking at this one. Mr. Hirsch?
Well, because of the Jacksonville defense, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I definitely agree with you, Shane, that this is the time when Bortles is going to either sink or swim. And, Chris Rose has brought up over and over again that toward the end of the season that Bortles was the highest-ranked quarterback in the NFL. And I don't know. It just didn't seem that way to me, but I guess the numbers don't lie. But he's going to have to step up his game. And if there's going to be an upset this weekend, I would expect it to be with the Bills. They've got a mobile quarterback. They're all pumped up. This is their big chance. This is their chance to do something. I don't think they expected themselves to be here at this beginning of the season. So I think they're excited, and I think it's possible that there's going to be an upset. But I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to pick Jacksonville by 3. Blaine?
Ooh. Mislead there. Okay, all right. I love the Bills in this. I don't know why. This is one of those picks, those feel-good picks, those hunches. I know I'd say Jacksonville is every other week team, and I know they lost last week, but I've gotten away from that now. See, we're in the playoffs now. This is sink or swim. And I like what you said, Shane, about Bortles, whether or not Bortles is going to come through. Now, if Jacksonville can run the ball, then with Fournette, then they have a good chance of just taking this game and dominating. If Jacksonville can't run the ball and they have to rely on Bortles, I think this is going to be the Bills' win. Now, Bortles has a problem with some cover 2 defenses in the past, and he seems to have a problem reading the cover 2. And I think that plays into the Bills' hands. And I think that Bills' secondary might have a pick or two waiting for him. Also, Shady McCoy is not going to be able to, well, it looks like it's questionable as to whether or not he'll be able to answer the call. He says it depends on if he can cut. And that's part of his game. That's a big part of his game. So if he can't play, the question is, can the rest of the running back stable step up? And also, I want to look at the fact that Tyrod Taylor is got some legs of his own. I could see Tyrod Taylor making a very big headache for the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. So I'm going to go with the Bills, and I'm going to say that they're going to probably pull this out by a touchdown.
So I want to clarify something very quickly. I was mentioning that he had one of the higher, some of the best numbers at the end, just to kind of say that, every dog has his day kind of deal, and they played against a couple of people, so he's not as bad as people think. At no way was I trying to say he was the best quarterback. I was just pointing out that sometimes numbers can show how someone that we don't think is, we've seen them play enough times badly or at the beginning of the season that sometimes the numbers can show us that, hey, over the last few games, they've actually been doing something surprising. So that's what I was saying in regards to Mr. Bortles. In no way was I saying he was the best quarterback. But there is something to it. But this game, that's not going to matter. Vegas has him up by 9, so that means they've crossed that 7 threshold. The Buffalo Bills are the by far worst team against the running back in the NFL all year long. You have Leonard Fournette, and on the games when Leonard Fournette has been hurt, they have found from their other couple of running backs sometimes even a better running game. Buffalo has a Shady McCoy that can't be what makes Shady so unique is his ability to cut on a dime and jump cut and do all those things. An ankle, he might try and tough it out and play is what I'm reading, but I don't think he really will. Again, they got to play Miami and the Jets twice this year. Even though the Jets were a little bit surprising, it's still Miami and the Jets. In the AFC, Jacksonville has it's the NFL, as we've said many times, is a game of matchups, and this is the absolute worst matchup that Buffalo could have gotten. They might have been able to stop a pass-only team. I don't think they're going to need Bortles at all in this. I think it's all going to be runs, short passes to the running backs coming out of the backfield. And they have no one to throw to. And you're talking about one of the best secondaries that we've seen in a while. They're going to have no one to throw to, and the only chance they would have had would have been the running game, which they have big Mike Tolbert, who's probably about, the program says 255, but he's 255 like I'm 150. He's he's a little bigger than that. I mean, he's a great athlete for his size, but I don't think that they have any chance. I think that, and the other thing that they're really bad at defending, as the Ravens know, is against the tight end, who had the same problem. When Mercedes Lewis scored 3 touchdowns against them in London and completely smashed the Ravens. And I think the Ravens are a better team than Buffalo. I think this is kind of a walk away for the Jags. So
it's all history now.
It's all history now. And as I mentioned before, the AFC I think is a little bit weaker, and there's some people I think should be in there that aren't in there. you guys heard me ad nauseum talk about how I think that in the NFC side of things, the right teams are all in there. And I think the NFC playoffs are going to be super exciting and super fun to watch. So LA Coliseum, nice warm weather, not on the poor East Coast, which is getting pounded by the cold. You got the Rams and the Falcons. Rams are favored by 6.5, so it still has not crossed that 7-point spread, which is so important to Vegas. You're looking at a Falcons team, though, and here's what scares me about the Falcons team. That defense has been getting a lot better, and you saw it last week. You saw it how they played against Carolina. I think they're playing well. But the way you beat the Falcons is running the ball and running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. And I think that's Todd Gurley all over the place. As far as the Rams are concerned, they do have some problems on defense, but I think on the road, shooting out, controlling the ball with Gurley, I think that's going to be something that the Falcons, they made it back to the playoffs as a Super Bowl loser. Congratulations to them. They're one of only a few teams in the last 30 years to do so. But I think this is where the road ends. The Rams controversially rested almost all of their starters last week. They're coming in completely healthy, coming in fresh. Falcons have a banged up Freeman, even though he's going to play. They have a banged up Julio. They have some problems on the defense. They have some banged up guys on the offensive line. Rams are coming in at full speed with momentum. I think this one actually gets away in the second half. I think they're going to give it their best, but I think just the conditioning and the halftime adjustments that McVay's been making all year is just going to be way too much for the personnel of the Falcons, and I think they're going to need to get that finally get that rest that they need. Because I'm sick, they're still tired from being in the Super Bowl last year. Shane?
Oh yeah, no, there's no question about that. I mean, the Rams, I think, rested their guys well. I think though you're going to see the Todd Gurley show out there against Atlanta, no question there. And I do think that Goff has played extremely well in pressure situations as well this year, that he's comfortable with what's going to be called and what's going to come at him from Atlanta. And I think he's going to have enough time to get that ball off. And I do think Watson and the rest of those guys are going to have some good games, at least to help him move the chains. So there's no question about that. And I think that front four is going to put a lot of pressure on Ryan to make him have to get out of that pocket or do something. And I don't think that's beneficial for him, because he's going to be scrambling too much and things aren't going to be going his way. So I do think that the bum is going to have a good defense for game plan against Atlanta. Atlanta can, if Ryan can get himself a couple of good shots downfield, he's going to take it. There's no question about it. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to do it this time. That's all I think. So I'm going to take Rams by 10 on this one as well, too. Mr. Hirsch?
Well, last year in the playoffs, even though my Packers were in there, I said Atlanta is the team to watch. And this year, I think it's the Rams. I think that the danger to the Falcons is that the Rams are going to put up so many points that the Falcons are going to need to go into emergency mode, and they're not going to be able to catch up. Because remember, the Rams do have a good defense. I think that the whole scheme of this game, if the Falcons are going to win it all, they're going to have to win it on defense. Because if they let the Rams get way up on them, they're never going to catch up to them. And I agree with Chris, and I agree with Shane that the running game from the Rams is going to be crucial. But let's not forget the part that Sean McVay is playing in this. Nobody except for maybe Bill Belichick is as exquisitely crafting a game plan for each opponent as Sean McVay. And that's going to come into play here with the way they're calling the plays on the offense and racking the points up on the board. The only way the Falcons can possibly win is by putting their defense to work, keeping the game close. Because let's remember, the Rams kicker is not with the team anymore because he's injured. He's out. And they've got some guy they drafted out of some accounting office in Connecticut or something. And So if it comes down to that, the Falcons might have a chance. But I'm going to pick the Rams by 14.
Well, I think that everything's been said about the Rams. The one thing that I want to say about this game is that I think it's going to come down to how much pressure the Rams defense can put on Matt Ryan and whether that offensive line is going to be able to protect him long enough for him to get those balls to Julio Jones and and the other receivers. I really I like the Rams because I think they're a more balanced team. I think they're the best of these two teams, as far as defense is concerned. Um, Offense, I think the Rams defense will be able to handle the Matt Ryan and the Falcons for the very reason that I just stated. And I think the Rams offense is a machine that I don't see the Falcons being able to stop. That being said, though, this is do or die for the Falcons. I'm really feeling a close game here in the end. It may come down to special teams as far as a special team score, a run back, or blocked punt. Something crazy like that's going to happen. I'm going with the Rams, but I'm going to take them by 3.
I forgot to mention, I'm going to add now, I think the only ones that can stop the Rams are the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
I do too, and now I was going to bring that up, but I do want to give you guys credit for bringing up 2 good points. Greg the Leg, or Legatron, as they call him, Greg Zerline. A lot of people don't know that he is out for the Rams. He has missed a few kicks in tight positions, but he's also kicked set some records and done some crazy things for that team this year. And the block punts, I think they have 4 or 5 blocked kicks this year.
I like kickers.
And that game against Seattle, I mean, they destroyed Seattle for a variety of reasons, but I think they had like 190 return yards from the punt returner and kick returners in that game. Their special teams is something that a lot of people don't talk about with the Rams, both on the defensive side and on the offensive side. And then this is a really good unit. So I always wanted to give you guys credit for bringing that up. So, folks, you guys listen to this, and you obviously are following us. This will be on our YouTube, but this is also going to be on our new Blog Talk channel, which we're kind of messing with a little bit. So it'll get a little bit better as the year goes on, just like we did last year in the off season. If you are listening to this on YouTube, the Blog Talk is www.blogtalkradio.com/Knuckleheads. The show is called the NFL Knuckleheads, and that's going to have a bunch of stuff coming out in the next few weeks. This is going to be a bit of a shorter show, so let's get on to our last game. Bringing up a little bit of what we just talked about next week. I think the Vikings or so, and for all you Philly folks, I'm going to say this again on Tuesday. It doesn't matter who plays you, you guys are going to get rocked. So I apologize for that, especially since the beating you guys have been giving me all year long. So actually, I'm not that sorry. But I think that's actually what's going to happen. So this game...
Don't give it away.
So the thing that makes this game interesting is it should be an easier game to pick, but those division games are always tricky, especially when you play someone for the 3rd time. And a lot of the stats and things go out the window when you play someone for the 3rd time. And the Saints have one of the best home field records as far as the split between home and road victories, how their stats look, how they play in between the two. My pick for offensive and defensive rookie of the year are both on the Saints. I think they did a great job of really rebuilding themselves this year. I'm really impressed. The Panthers have done a lot, but they have a lot of injuries. They give up the 3rd most points to wide receivers on the outside, even though this year has been the year of the running back for the Saints. They still line people up outside. I think the Saints just have too many weapons. I think that Cam Newton, when he gets pressed, he doesn't really do as well. I think that defense is playing better. Carolina has a problem giving up turnovers. The Saints have been in the plus on the turnover side almost all year long, really impressing people. I think that in the NFC are in the playoffs, and I think the right four are going to play, except for the Eagles, but I think they were the right team until they lost Wentz, so they still deserve to be up for that four. I just don't think they maybe are there now. But I think the Saints are going to walk all over the Panthers. However, as I mentioned, division games, playing a team for the third time, weird stuff happens. I think that while we've seen the running backs do a ton this year, I think that this is going to be the week of Michael Thomas on the Saints. I think this is going to be a huge outing for him. I just don't think there's anyone on the Panthers that can stop that combination of Breeze to those big fast receivers, and that's going to be the big difference in the game.
Well, you know what? This is going to be, like you said, going into New Orleans. This is a game where I think Breeze starts to come out and say, you know what? I'm ready for it. I'm up for this challenge because I live for this moment. He's got stuff to prove to himself as well as the rest of the fans and the team and the league that he can still play at 39 out there and still rifle that ball. And by having the balanced running game that they have right now, they are throwing so much at every defense that they play against. And this is what I think they're going to be doing. I think they're going to have this all set up where they're going to run it down at Carolina. They're going to pick the pockets and allow Breeze to throw it the way he can, and they're just going to keep moving the chains. But I also think Breeze is going to control the game, and he's going to kill Cam by having Cam Newton sit off on that sideline for too long, and it's going to frustrate Cam Newton. That's what I think is going to happen in this game. I think New Orleans is going to run it. They're going to control the clock. They're going to control the pace, and they're going to keep scoring. And I just don't think Cam's going to be himself out there. He's going to try too much to do too many things, and it's going to get himself into trouble. I just see New Orleans taking this one at home, and I think it's going to be an exciting game that way. But I think it's going to be a frustrating game for Carolina myself. Mr. Hirsch.
Thank you, Shane. I like how you talked about Cam Newton sitting on the sideline and being frustrated, because one of the things that I've always noticed about Cam Newton is that he seems to be very, I don't know how to put this, emotionally immature. He doesn't seem to function well unless he's the bestest and the greatest. And when things aren't going his way, he just seems to have a knack for making things worse. Having said all that, here's two teams that are coming together that really didn't have a good week last week. I mean, the Panthers looked terrible against Atlanta, and look at what happened in New Orleans. So New Orleans is coming into the Dome, the place where they play the best, and Carolina's coming off that horrible game they had, Cam Newton especially. And, you know, we talked about the Falcons' defense against the Panthers last week, and I'm not so sure it was the Atlanta defense. I think it was more that the Panthers just couldn't get anything going. And if they're going to show up in New Orleans at the Superdome in the same kind of rhythm that they had last week, there's no way they're going to win. I think probably New Orleans is going to win. I wonder if if they're going to step up their game or if they've peaked, because I think they've been falling off both in their running game and the results overall in the last few weeks. I think it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to go with New Orleans. And I think that the Panthers are going to continue in their slump. I'm going to pick the Saints by 14. Blaine?
Yeah, I see. I'm looking back on the games at the scores. Week 3, the Saints beat the Panthers by 21 points in Carolina. The second game on week 13 was a little closer, much closer actually. They beat the Panthers by 10, 31 to 21, and that was in New Orleans. And I don't see the Panthers figuring this out this time around either in New Orleans. I think the Saints again are a better team offensively, and they do have some defense. I think they'll have enough defense to stop, and like you all pointed out, frustrate Cam Newton. Each game this year, the Saints have scored over 30 points. So it tells me that the Carolina Panthers defense is not finding a way to stop them. I see the Saints taking this one by another 10 points. I think that running back duo is going to be too much for the Carolina defense to handle, to stop. And I think the arm of Drew Brees is going to be too much for the Carolina defense to stop. I think actually Carolina might have shot their load already on this one. It might have been done.
Is that the technical term?
Technical term, that's the only thing I could come up with on short notice.
Shot the load, that's the technical term.
Yeah, when you load a gun and you take it and you shoot it at the target, you shot,
I think
you.
that's a pretty apt observation, Blaine.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Nice.
All right, guys. So this is going to be a quick show today. Next week, we're going to have a couple of new bells and whistles that I'm working on. So we thank you for your support as we start to develop this new channel. And I think that next week's games, we can go a little more in depth. Make sure you listen to us on Tuesdays. Obviously, you found us here, then you know where we are at Mancini Sports. Shut the Puck Up is on Monday for all you hockey fans. Yeah, so please, thank you so much, and thank you for listening to the first iteration of our of this new channel. And we will be back next week. Thank you so much for your time.
Knuckleheads.
Knuckleheads. And just so you guys know, the knucklehead idea is just kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of us saying, we do research and we're really into this, but we're not trying to come out and say that we are, these crazy, the best crazy people that do all this work on ESPN and statisticians and things. I think that people who try to say that are kind of silly. We just do what we do, and we've had the support of you guys doing what we do. So that's my name, and that's why I picked it.
We're not afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm not a knucklehead. I don't consider myself to be a knucklehead. I'm just riding in the back seat here. And,
yeah. So I am the knucklehead. And then I'm surrounded by some other great football fans. So it's called the Knuckleheads, but sometimes I talk about myself in third person. That's all. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.